Now, the government ultimately won that vote, but Stephen Kinnock, Labour MP for Aberavon, voted against the party leadership on that point and joins us now. Morning, Mr Kinnock.
Hello, good morning.
Why did you decide to rebel against the party line on this?
Well, I've been making the case for the European Economic Area for 18 months now. I think it's the only sensible option that, enables us to leave the European Union, which we have to do, but to do so in a way that doesn't destroy thousands of jobs in my Aberavon constituency, in Wales, across the entire United Kingdom, and which also, by the way, is the only way of solving the issue of the Northern Irish border. The government has said there can be no hard border infrastructure there. The only way to solve that problem is to have the European Economic Area plus a form of customs union so that you can have frictionless trade between what will become the border of the European Union and the United Kingdom. So I think it's actually basic common sense. The government has set a red line that it doesn't want to undermine the Northern Irish border and also wants to protect the British economy. Well, if you want to stick with those red lines, you need the European Economic Area plus a form of customs union. So it was disappointing that the leadership of my party in the front bench didn't see it that way, but we will continue to have the discussion, and I hope we can persuade them to do the right thing.
Well, you're not, and obviously you're not the only one who supports this model. Carwyn Jones, the First Minister, has argued in favour of this, which is also sometimes known as the Norway model, isn't it? If people hear people talking in those terms, that's what it means. But nevertheless, it is not the policy of the leadership in your party. We have a UK government that is divided over Brexit. For the opposition to also be so divided is surely squandering an important opportunity, isn't it, Mr Kinnock? And you are helping to convey an impression, really, of a party that is, in fact and in appearance, absolutely riven over this.
Well, I think the difference is that we are actually setting out, those of us who are supporting the European Economic Area option, we're setting out a clear vision and a plan that is realistic, that is actually a ready-made model that everybody understands, it's well established. And so the difference between ourselves and the Conservative Party is there's no vision or plan whatsoever coming from them, and I really hope that if we can.
But there isn't from your, forgive me, but there isn't from your party either, because while you say this is basic common sense, your own party leadership says, actually, no, it's not, because we can't accept freedom of movement, which we would have to do for your policy. People voted, lots of Labour voters voted to leave the EU, and being in a situation where, yes, you have access to the single market, but on the other hand, you also have to accept all the rules of the single market, is arguably not leaving at all, is it?
Well, actually, the European Economic Area enables a lot of divergence. It's not under the European Court of Justice. It's the EFTA court, which frequently diverges from the European Court of Justice. There are many different channels, the EEA Joint Committee and other working groups that enable EEA countries to actually influence and shape the single market rules. So
you have to accept freedom of movement, though, don't you?
No, in fact, there's two articles, Article 112 and 113 of the European Economic Area Agreement, which enable the pulling of an emergency brake and then to suspend free movement and then to reform it. It's a basis for negotiation. Nobody's claiming that it's absolutely perfect, but at the moment we have a complete mess with the government still arguing amongst itself. And yes, I accept that we've had disagreements in Labour, but what we are now seeing with time slipping by is the time for abstaining and ambiguity and triangulation is long past. We have to now act. We're moving towards a crisis of national dimensions here. This isn't just about party politics, and there are many, many Conservative MPs who see this the way we do. There's another bill coming back to the House of Commons in July, the Customs and Trade Bill. Conservative MPs have tabled an amendment to that. There's already 16 signatures of Tory MPs on it, I believe. So there is a cross-party parliamentary majority for a sensible and pragmatic approach.
So do you form a new party? I mean, seriously, that's a serious question. What happens then? Do all of the pro-EU MPs form a new party? Because the leaderships of the two main parties are not accepting what you're saying.
No, the Labour Party is the greatest force for good that our country politically has ever seen. And
so why not get on board
absolutely...
with the leadership line then?
Well, the leadership line needs to change. The leadership line on this was wrong. It was the wrong way to go. And as a backbencher, I believe it's my duty to help to shape the strategy and the position of the leadership. We, I think, still have plenty of scope for them to move on this so that we can get to a clear vision and plan. And I think that we can do that over the coming weeks and months.
Okay.
I think we're in Parliament to do the right thing by our constituents. We've got to put country before party sometimes.
OK, before we let you go, could I just ask you about the World Cup and Russia and the calls that you've made for protest armbands to be worn by the English team while playing? Do you stand by those comments? Because they have received quite a lot of criticism in some quarters.
As a passionate fan of the Welsh team, I'm deeply disappointed that Wales isn't there. But I think, England going is about what is the UK doing at the World Cup about the fact that we've had a military-grade nerve agent used on the streets of the United Kingdom. And I've said from the start that I don't think the World Cup should have been being played in Russia. And I think a gesture by the team to show that, we can't just let Putin use the World Cup as a smokescreen.
But why should that be up to individual sports people? I mean, if you want a formal protest, surely it's up to the government to do something, isn't it? I mean, should it be up to individual sports people to have to do that?
Well, the government has said it won't be sending any individuals, any officials, I should say, no government officials, no members of the royal family, any of that are going to the World Cup. I just think that if in one of the matches armbands were worn, it would send a clear signal that sport and politics do mix. Just think of the way in which the sanctions on the South African rugby team made a major contribution to the downfall of apartheid. Think of Jesse Owens at the 1936 Berlin Olympics. It's time to stand up for our principles and values. And if you've got an aggressive foreign power using a military-grade nerve agent on our streets, are we going to just carry on as if it's business as usual?
I'm grateful to you for joining us, Mr. Kinnock. Thank you very much.